Good afternoon from Brussels. Thank you for joining me for the latest Facebook live stream. As usual, I've got pages of questions in front of me, and I'm going to try and answer as many of those as I possibly can. Somebody's actually asked me two very important questions. The first one is, do I think some of the questions put to me are by non-Brexit supporting people who quite simply want to get their point across and they're very angry with me? As far as I'm concerned, I am more than happy to answer everybody's questions, whether they are rude, they show that they don't actually know what they're talking about, or just because they feel they've got out of bed the wrong day. But also there are people out there that do care about the Brexit vote, and I'm going to be answering a lot of those questions. But we'll start with some of the ones that I felt, and I didn't try and filter too much, but I felt really got to the point where we're at the moment. Steve Lloyd, you've asked, why is the EU so intent on using Ireland to drive a wedge between us, making something out of nothing? Steve, in my view, and I think it's been confirmed universally, the EU set about finding the most difficult subjects it could possibly find to try and stop Brexit. And two, probably top of the list, was the Irish border between Éire and Northern Ireland, and the other one was the border between Gibraltar and Spain. It just so happens that because the Prime Minister of Éire is effectively, in my words and my view, an EU puppet, and it's payback time, they've got a willing individual there prepared to risk the safety and security of their citizens to actually deliver the European Union's need for and threat for a hard border. Now, what I really want to highlight, the Prime Minister doesn't need to agree to anything. The Good Friday Agreement is sacrosanct, nothing's going to change that. But it let the European Union prove actually what it's about and let them put the hard border in place. And then let's see how the Prime Minister of Éire actually responds, and also some of the other political parties, because there was a really awful poll this week of Irish citizens supporting a particular Irish political party who've already signalled that if there is a hard border that the European Union wants, they will resort to violence. Doesn't that just show you the calibre of party politics in Éire at the moment? Now, Judith Hope McFarlane, you said, how do you personally, Diane, feel that progress is being made? Judith, I sometimes just hang my head in shame at the way the United Kingdom is handling the negotiations. And I think it's a view shared increasingly by Jacob Rees-Mogg, by Boris Johnson, and even by Mr Gove. Quite frankly, we have a really weak Prime Minister in terms of her position and her commitment to delivering Brexit. And the more I see on a daily basis of the sort of deal that is being delivered, the more I see that, in fact, we may have that legal fudge that I talked about, that, yes, we're no longer a European Union member, but we are so far and so much as a country aligned to the European Union that effectively we will have achieved very, very little. And that really does upset me, and I think this should disturb everybody who feels strongly about United Kingdom democracy. Now, Ray Young, you said, where do I start? We have 24 pro-Leave MEPs in Brussels. Why are they not shouting from the rooftops about what is going on in Brussels? Well, Ray, I hope, like you, I'm going to be watching tonight's Channel 4 programme, which is all about an inside view of Brussels. And you'll see a number of MEPs, and even, in fact, a Labour one, exposing what's wrong with the European Union and how bizarre this whole circus is. But when it comes down to it, there's probably more than 24 pro-Leave MEPs here. There's myself and some other non-inscree independents. There's the UKIP contingent. And there are also some pro-Leave MEPs in the Tory side. It's really only the other parties that are dead against delivering Brexit. But what we're all up against is, at the moment, the media and the press in the United Kingdom is not interested in exposing what's wrong with the European Union and giving that the necessary attention that it needs to have, all it seems to be doing is supporting the Remain campaign. And I get very, very unhappy about that. I can ask every single week, for instance, can I go on the BBC South East? Can I go on BBC South programme? Could I go on Question Time, for instance? Could I go on any questions on Radio 4? And the answer every time is either just complete silence or no, Miss James, we're very sorry, we don't want you as a Leave Brexiteer. But everyone, can I just reinforce, watch tonight's programme, Channel 4, Inside View on what's happening in Brussels. Now, Liz Henderson, you said, how can leaving the single market and the customs union be a sensible idea when it will be so destructive for the just-in-time supply chain? Thousands of jobs depend on car manufacturing in the UK. What would you say to these employers? Well, Liz, you're clearly not a leaver, and it goes back to a question that I responded to earlier. You're obviously somebody who thinks that leaving the United Kingdom is going to be detrimental. Just remember, please, Liz, that the volume of cars exported to the United Kingdom from Germany in particular is wholly dependent on them having access to our market. Now, we don't need and we don't want to be a member of the single market or a member of the customs union. Why should we? Why should we penalise people with the tariffs that the European Union puts on goods, on services, and, really penalises us in terms of our buying decisions? Why is that in the interests of the ordinary consumer, the ordinary person in the street? Those jobs in the West Midlands are absolutely, in my belief, secure, because they are tied to, in the main, West German automotive companies. And when I say West German, I mean those companies that are based in what was formerly West Germany before it was unified. But their biggest market in the European Union is the United Kingdom. They're not going to want to put that at risk. And there is absolutely no reason, with the technology that exists across the world, for the just-in-time industry to actually accommodate putting forward data, as it should be doing anyway, and actually getting accredited import and export status. And I would be really happy if we had that, because then maybe we could be sure that we didn't need to scan the small proportion of HGVs that we do at the border to try and find illegal migrants and other aspects that we're not happy with or feel safe with into the United Kingdom. So, Liz, sorry, I don't share your view, and I hope others don't either. Nicholas Woodhouse, you said, how would we become a vassal state and what would happen if we did? I totally agree that if at the moment the negotiations go ahead and the deal that's being struck actually comes into being, we will be nothing more than a vassal state. We won't have any commissioners. We won't have any MEPs. We won't have any influence whatsoever in terms of how the European Union is run or in terms of what it's set out as a future strategy. And I mean a common taxation rate, a common corporate taxation rate, a EU military force, an EU army. Those are just some of the aspects that Macron, for instance, has highlighted he wants, and also that the European Union last year put together in a document which I made available electronically for anybody who wants to see a copy. I don't want the United Kingdom to be a vassal state. It doesn't need to be. What it needs to do is walk away from the European Union. It doesn't need the degree of alignment that currently our Prime Minister is giving away. It needs to do what is in the good prospects and in the best interests of the United Kingdom economy. And that means trading independently, making our own decisions count that are taken in the House of Commons in London and in the devolved nation parliaments, and actually standing on our own 2 feet. Can I just remind you, we're not alone now. Look at what's happened in Italy. Look at what happened in Germany, where the main opposition party is effectively an anti-EU party, and equally the degree of electoral support that anti-EU parties have had in other countries. Hungary, Poland, Netherlands, France, you name it. Virtually every single country now has increasingly an anti-EU party. Lynn Fincher, you said, can you confirm that the Phase 1 talks agreed by Theresa May include a regulatory alignment trap? I love your words, Lynn, and I couldn't agree more. All the time the words alignment are there means that we can't diverge from what the European Union does, say, dictate or direct. We need to be making our own decisions as a sovereign nation. We need to be responding to what is happening globally, not as what is happening just on the European continent, where quite frankly they're so blinkered and they're so isolationist that they don't seem to be able to recognise what is required in terms of changes. And one aspect that really gets me about the European Union, remember this was a concept devised decades ago, nearly 60 years ago. You know, when you have a concept that's devised that long ago and nobody seems to want to change direction, nobody can see the need to change direction, that's why we have the growth that we have in anti-EU parties. And I do share a view that Nigel Farage made only a couple of weeks ago. If David Cameron had come away pre-referendum from something that was meaty enough to show that the European Union was capable of, wanted to embark on, and was going to deliver internal reform to actually, accommodate this anti-EU sentiment, I'm not entirely convinced that the referendum would have gone the way it did. But it has gone the way it has, and unfortunately the European Union doesn't and won't forgive the United Kingdom for the decision it's taken. Peter, you said you're an ambassador for UKIP, and do you think the same as me that a lot of negative comments come from the opposition parties? Well, Peter, I'm really sorry. I'm not an ambassador for UKIP. I'm no longer a member of that particular party. However, I am an ambassador for Brexit and for Leave. And from my point of view, I think I've already made the point, I do take on board that a lot of questions that come to me, and I've highlighted one already, are from people that are not Brexit supporters. They are that part of that cohort that doesn't believe in democracy, doesn't believe in the 4% differential that the Leave won the referendum with, and they want to overturn democracy in the United Kingdom. Let me go on to some of what I call my angry bird questions. I mean, it's only fair to actually tackle some of the people out there who are clearly absolutely furious with the fact that the United Kingdom made the decision it did. And I'm going to give them a bit of airtime because I do believe in democracy and I believe in listening to every view. I may not agree with it, and I will always try and respond to some of those views. Now, Auntie Hayes, you said, will you be at the big march in London on the 23rd of June? Well, Anthony, if there's going to be a big Brexit Leave march on the 23rd of June, I am going to be there. And make sure, please, Anthony, that having highlighted that there is a big Brexit Leave march on the 23rd of June, make it happen. You've also asked, do you think a new Leave party with leavers from differing parties is viable? Well, whether you asked that question, Anthony, I know others did as well, I do think that the way the political system in the UK is fracturing, that there is going to be a new Leave party. And it may well bring individuals from the other existing Westminster political parties across. And I can say that with the confidence I do, because when the referendum was being undertaken, when the individuals who signed up to vote Leave and Brexit Central and all of those organisations, Leave.eu, etc., they weren't just from one political party. There were Greens, there were Lib Dems, there were very significant Labour Party members like Gisela Stewart, like Kate Hoey. There were, of course, the big names from UKIP, Nigel Farage and such. So a new Leave party may well come into being purely because I think individuals will look at what's happened and decide they don't want any truck with parties that so far have given them a verbal commitment to do something and then promptly reneged on it completely. Keith Kerman, you've said, do you believe we will get full control of our country back after Brexit, out of the customs union, border controls, fishing rights? Keith, no, I don't. You know, I've already talked about this issue of alignment, which is what our Prime Minister is signing us up to. All the time we are aligned to another country and aligned to another government system. That means we can't do our own thing. It's why I believe Brexit means Brexit. The Tory party general election manifesto will prove to be the biggest fudge and the biggest, quite frankly, misleading pledge ever given. I can only try and remain optimistic, but I'm not optimistic at the moment. Some people have also asked me, why do I always give the name of the person who asked the question? Well, why shouldn't I? I'm here to show to people that I'm listening to their views, that I'm reading what they send me, and I want to give them the credence for actually taking the time to do that. So everybody keep on sending in your questions and also keep on sending in your names with them. Now, Max Ellis, you probably take first prize this time for Angry Bird, and you said, why are you drawing a salary paid to you to represent the UK's best interests when you're actively working against them? Well, Max, back in 2014, the last European elections, 32% of the MEPs elected to this parliament were for a straightforward anti-EU party. There was also a proportion of the Tory MEPs who were pro-leave. And people voted for those individuals knowing what they were asking them to do, which was to represent EU exit for the United Kingdom. The best interests of the United Kingdom are to leave the European Union. If you believe otherwise, you believe in sovereign slavery. And I cannot believe that's really what you think is in the best interests of young people for decades to come and for individuals living in the country and working in the United Kingdom at the moment. I believe in freedom, I believe in democracy, and I believe in sovereignty. And that's what I believe will be the best interests and what Brexit will mean for the United Kingdom. And I will finish on this Angry Bird question. Do I really imagine a far-right populist movement giving credence to fascist views is good for the United Kingdom? The biggest fascist party in the United Kingdom at the moment is the Labour Party, a party that will not deal with anti-Jewish sentiment and will not deal with anti-Semitism within its own party. There is no other party, political party I can think of that has exhibited the sort of abhorrent views and actions that the Labour Party has done so far in terms of the anti-Jewish stance it's taken. I'm going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me here in Brussels today. We'll do a live stream, I hope, next week from Strasbourg. We'll try and get the topic out to you as soon as we possibly can. Get those questions in. Get your name against the questions, because I want to show that I'm here representing everybody, whether you're pro-leave or pro-remain. Thanks for joining me. Bye now.